Hello and welcome to another episode of a Brothers Creed podcast. We're talking about motivation, experiences, and exploring the world around us. We're the Thomas brothers. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jared, and today we're talking about poetry, motivational poetry. When I was in school as a kid, I was like, man, poetry is the lamest thing ever. But now as an adult, I can appreciate the finesse that people put on words. And as I, am able to think more deeply, obviously than I was when I was a child, these things mean a lot more to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, that actually holds a lot of meaning to me. And I can really feel that poetry. So there is so much out there. I mean, it's like from the dawn of time until now. So a lot of people have written a lot of great things. Ethan and I have just pulled, three or four each that we thought were cool, that we liked, that were motivational, and ones that we liked. And we're going to share them with you today. And hopefully this will culture you a bit, as it has us, to know, get a taste of what's out there, and maybe you might also fancy some of these poems that we're sharing, and say, hey, I think that does apply to me. It's interesting. It's just like saying something in such an eloquent way that usually we talk in such layman terms often. So to hear something so eloquently said is often refreshing and delightful to the ears.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into it and hear some of this poetry.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information.
And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
All right. So as Jared said, today we're going to be talking about kind of let's call it motivational poetry for men, right? And I liked what we were saying earlier, how a lot of times poetry can put into words how people are feeling in a very concise way. I think a lot of times there's so much filler words that we use that when you try to fit something into a poem or a more concise way of telling a story or how you feel, I just liked how it plays out. So I have a couple here that I wanted to go through. Well, I'll go through one, and then Jared and I would just kind of bounce back and forth. But the first one that I had is a poem called "The Man in the Glass." This poem is actually a poem. Did you do that one too, Jared?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
But go
geez.
ahead. No, that's okay. Go ahead.
So this is one that this is probably where we both got it from, but Dad in his closet all growing up on like the side of the bookshelf or whatever was there, he had this poem up in the closet of their room. And I remember as a kid, we'd always go up there, and when Dad would get home from work, we'd be like, "Oh, hey, Dad," and we'd go up and we used to be talking to him about the day as he was, changing his clothes or whatever out of his work clothes. And there was just a lot of times where I'd hear him talk about it, or I'd hear him, say a couple lines from it, and it always just kind of stuck with me. I'm sure the same for you, Jared. But I wanted to go ahead and read it. I am not the best poetry reader, but I will give it my best attempt. So this one is kind of 4 stanzas, I guess is what they're called, which is just kind of groups of poems within. Or
I thought it was 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I only have 4 here. If you have some more at the end, then
What's the last one? Is it "You may fool the whole world"?
yeah.
And then the next one up is "He's the fellow."
Yep. The next one up is for
Some people.
It isn't your father.
Oh, you're missing one. Some people may think.
Oh,
Oh, I'll read that one.
Okay.
I'll
All
read
right.
the
Well,
third
I'll
one.
read the first. I'll read the first two. The first two. You read the middle one, and then I'll read the next one.
Okay.
So it's five stanzas. Okay. So here it goes. It says, "When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or your or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass."
Some people may think you a shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the guy in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye.
He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you've passed your most difficult, dangerous test. If the man in the glass is your friend, you may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward with your heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass.
Deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that last bit. But your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. So, just kind of that guy looking back at you, the one that whose verdict counts most in life, is the one staring back from the glass.
Kind of makes remember at the end of Breaking Bad when he goes and he kind of at the very end after he kills all the bad guys. And he's like he's gotten shot, and he like walks out to that little lab that they have, and he looks in kind of the mirror on one of those vats, and it kind of sees his reflection, and just like what he had become, kind of reminds me of that, where like he couldn't look himself in the mirror because he had become like a monster from what he had set out, and he had just gone so far off course in what he had wanted to do with all that. Remember at the beginning of the show, he was just like, $200,000, that's all I need.
Yeah.
And then it just spun. And that's a great series. Just a great character development on that. But anyway, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, I completely agree. Did you get that one where'd you get that one from? From Dad as well, or had you heard it before?
I had heard it before, but I actually was just looking up different ones online, and I saw that one, and I just read through it, and I was like, that's such a powerful message. And so, but now that you say that Dad had that one, I do remember that, but I actually just had chosen it, like, one I had found.
Well, what's funny is that I couldn't remember the name of it, and I thought it was like, so this one is The Man in the Glass, but I thought it was The Man in the Mirror.
Oh, yeah?
And so I kept looking up, Man in the Mirror, Man in the Mirror, and that's a Michael Jackson song, and all I got was the lyrics of The Man in the Mirror, and I was like, this is not it. And so actually I called Mom, and I was like, Mom, can you go take a picture of the poem that's taped on the side of the dresser and the in the thing? And she was like, I was like, what is that called? She was like, oh, it's The Man in the Glass. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
So here's one that I really like. And for me, it has special meaning because, well, it's called A Little Fellow Follows Me by Lee Fisher. And then in my case, I have 4 little fellows following me. So this one always just kind of gives me, as a father, anybody who's a father, doesn't have to be a fellow. I guess it could be a little princess too, but in this case, it's a little fellow. And so I'll read this one. It says, a careful man I want to be, a little fellow follows me. I do not dare to go astray, for fear he'll go the self-same way. I cannot once escape his eyes. Whate'er he sees me do, he tries. Like me, he says he's going to be the little chap who follows me. He thinks that I'm good and fine, believes in every work of mine. The base in me he must not see, the little chap who follows me. I must remember as I go through summer sun and winter snow. I'm building for the years to be that little chap who follows me.
Yeah.
I like that one. It's just so powerful. I think that it talks about being just one. It's like not only is the responsibility on me to show my son how to live, but like I have to show through my example because he's watching me, and I have to, and by doing that, I can maybe help him in his future. One thing I've been thinking about recently is just like, well, the best way to teach my kids about entrepreneurship is to be an entrepreneur. The best way to teach my kids about being creative is to be creative. The best way to teach my kids about being artistic is to be artistic. And so I can't sit back and say, "Oh yeah, son, go paint something or go create something," and not do that myself. So I have to show him. And so that's why whenever I take out the podcast stuff, I bring my boys in and say, "Hey, come help me set up," and well, not every time, but sometimes. And then whenever I do my intros every new year, I sit down, show them the intros, like, "What do you guys think?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and they love the. I say, "Help me choose a beat for this intro," and they like help me choose the beat or whatever. And I said, "What do you think about these quotes?" And they're like, "Oh, cool." And they don't know what movies they're from, but yeah. So I just think that being that person to lead your boys because they're watching you. Reminds me of that country song, where he says, "Dad, I've been watching you." Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, ain't that cool?
Yeah.
I'm something. I'm your buckaroo. Yeah, I know I
Yeah.
know what song you're talking about.
Yeah. That's kind of reminds me of the same song. So anyway, that's one of the ones I like.
Yeah. Well, and I think in that country song, it's like he finds his son praying on his knees, praying, and he like asks him, "Why are you doing that?" And he's like, "Well, because I saw you do it."
Yeah. Then one time he hears his kids, curse or something like that. He says, "Where'd you learn words like that?" He says, "Dad, I've been watching you. Man, ain't that cool?" So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. Great poem. So, I forgot to say the Man in the Glass poem is actually by Peter Dale Wimbrow Sr. So the next one that I had, this is actually from a song. It's lyrics from a song, but I'm gonna say it's poetry because what are songs if not just sung poetry, right?
Was it when I was a young boy, my father took me into the city
to see a
to join the Black Parade.
Oh yeah.
Oh
no.
Actually,
So this one is
yeah. Go ahead.
so this one is from Rocky.
Nice.
Okay. So the soundtracks for Rocky are actually really good. But this is from Rocky 4.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a song that was special that was made for this for the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it was called Burning Heart. And it's the at the beginning it's like two worlds collide.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lyric in that, or there's two lines in that song that I really like. And I'll read it first and then I'll sing it. Or maybe I'll sing it first. And then I'll read it.
Okay.
So it's like in the warrior's code, there's no surrender. And it says, though his body says stop, his spirit cries never. Right. So I think that's something that has always stuck with me. So in the warrior's code, there's no surrender. Though his body says stop, his spirit cries never.
That's
and
cool.
That was kind of like that's always kind of been a poem to me a little bit, that we try to live the warrior's creed. We talk about these codes. The warrior's code, there's no surrender. And in the specific instance where he's talking about, he's like in the heat of training, and though his body says stop, and is like, your body is just like, no, I can't go anymore, his spirit cries never. And just like pushes through. And that was just something that was kind of cool. Yeah. Sorry for the bad singing, but I just had to sing it.
That was gorgeous, man. Hey, that was good. I like that. That's your spirit cries never. That's cool. So mine, the next one I like, and this maybe is like cliche, but I don't care. It's do not go gentle into that good night. This was one that was famously featured in the movie Interstellar, and I won't speak it as well as the
Michael Caine,
he plays
Alfred.
But this was by Dylan Thomas, and I like this one because it talks about really the theme of. I'll kind of give a little bit of background before I read it. It talks about the theme of like that life is precious, and you should fight for every minute, for every turn of in your life. The poem's speaker offers insights into how to face death with dignity and ferocity rather than just resignation. And he says that people should burn and rave at the approaching death. The poem comprises of 6 stanzas, and in which the speaker categorizes men of 4 classes: a wise man, a good man, a wild men, and then grave men, with the intention of offering the readers a peek into their minds of such men as they near death. And then I'll talk to you a little bit more. I want to mention one other thing after I read the poem. But I like it because it just talks about approaching death with defiance and passion for living. Whenever I think about this poem, I think about, you ever remember that movie Secondhand Lions?
Yep, great movie.
Yeah, so like the guy was like, there's these old guys who lived this adventurous life, and the kid from The Sixth Sense comes up to him, and he kind of convinces him to not be just old crotchety guys, but to really live life again. And they just kind of start to spend. They're super rich. They spend their money. They start to live their life again. And at the end of the movie, I think both of the guys were in an airplane, and then they crashed the airplane upside down into their
in the
barn, and they both died. That's how they died. And so, like, I always thought about that. Like, they were just like, they raged against the dying of the light. Well, I guess in that case, they maybe killed themselves prematurely, but they were raging, and they were living. They lived a fun life, or like an adventurous life. And so I thought that was kind of cool.
Fulfilled life.
Yeah. So let me, I'll read this to you. So it says, "Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning they, do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in Green Bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with the fierce tears, I pray, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light." So,
That's deep, man.
Yeah, one of the specific ones in here talks about the man who was the wild man, right? And it says he caught and sang the sun in flight. He lived his life just joyous and recklessly, but when faced with death, he's overcome with regret for the frivolous behavior. He squandered opportunities in his life. The good man, he's crying for his deeds that could have been better, or that weren't even all that great. Or the wise man whose words had forked no lightning, his words didn't make as much impact as he thought they would, or he could have done more. And so I just think that it's a great poem, and think that it just speaks to like almost like a memento mori, which is like Latin for like, it's like a reminder of death is what that means, and how frail life is, and to live to its fullest.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, remember death, memento mori. Um, I'd had a couple other ones here, just kind of some shorter ones. But there's one that kind of stuck out with me. It's called Success by Bessie A. Stanley. And so this talks about what it is, what it means to achieve success in life. And so he says, he has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children. And so,
Say that last line again.
so
Who has
he has,
gained the respect
he has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children. And so it's almost so is loved and laughed often, who's gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children. So that to me was like, you can you can almost ball in two courts, right? You've gained the respect of intelligent men. And so you have obviously done things in your life, maybe successful career wise or whatever it might be to earn the respect of intelligent men, right?
Mhm.
Not always rich men, but intelligent men. And then at the same time being able to gain the love of little children, and just being soft enough to, be a good father, be a kind person. I mean, kids just have this sixth sense of who a kind person is. And if you can, gain that respect and that love, I think it was just kind of a cool thing that kind of stuck out to me about success.
Yeah, I like that one. Now it means it can mean many different things.
Yeah.
One that I like that is actually from a movie. I actually posted about this. I've actually posted a clip of this on our TikTok. If you haven't, if you don't follow us on TikTok, you better, because we post lots of awesome stuff there, and we're even shadow banned. So that's how good we are. We can't, for some reason, our videos can't get over like 200 views. So
Well, some of them got more than that, but it's like we got like 200,000 or like 40,000, 50,000 on like really good ones.
yeah,
On a couple of those that we posted.
yeah.
But then we posted pretty solidly with some pretty decent content, and yeah. So I don't know. We'll figure that out.
But anyway, we'll figure it out. But anyway, this way is from the movie The Gray, and it's kind of the part of the movie where there's this guy Liam Neeson, some Liam Neesons.
Liam Neeson's.
Yeah. He is basically like a wolf hunter for like an oil rig company, for an oil company in like in Alaska. And he's flying home, but his plane crashes, and he's kind of stranded out in the wilderness, frozen tundra, in the woods. And him and some survivors are trying to get back to civilization, but they got a wolf pack on their heels, and through a series of all these events, they're trying to survive, but they're getting killed by these wolves. Kind of at the end of the movie, he's alone because everybody else has died off. He's got like a handful, probably, and he's kind of on this one spot where he has run and away from the wolves, and he kind of falls down on his knees, and he's looking at a picture of his wife in his wallet, and he looks up, and he realizes he's in the middle of the wolf den, and the alpha is right there, like on a little ledge, looking at him, and he is like, "Oh shoot!" And so he kind of like looks at this picture of his wife. He takes out all the wallets of all the people that had died, puts them on the ground in front of him, and then he takes out like
some glass shot bottles,
like little like alcohol bottles from the plane. Takes them and he like takes some tape. He tapes them around. He puts his hand in like a fist, and he tapes the bottles, like the mouth of the bottle into like between his knuckles. Like I think 3 bottles, and then his other hand he takes some tape and he ties his knife into his other hand so that the blade is down, and he just tapes his hands up so that he couldn't let go. And then he cracks the bottles so they're just broken glass, like almost like a boxing glove of broken glass on his fist. And he recites this poem that I think is really cool. It's just short. He says, "Once more into the fray, into the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day." So I think it's cool because
Into the fray.
once more into the fray, like he's going at it again, into the last good fight I'll ever know. Makes you wonder, like, when is the last good fight you'll ever know? You know, what will that be? I think a lot of people when they retire, that is something that really goes through their mind. Is that when they retire from their jobs, they feel like that was the last good fight they'll ever fight, and it's all downhill from there. And I think that's why sometimes when people, especially police officers, when police officers retire, dude, they die. I mean, the statistics around that are very interesting. They die many times very quickly after they retire, which is a very interesting statistic. And maybe it's because they felt like maybe I'm not a police officer myself, known several, but maybe it has something to do with this about like going into that good fight, and maybe the thought of you having already fought your last fight, maybe that is what drags you down. But then he says, "Live and die on this day," and he says it again, "Live and die on this day." So it's almost like the knowing that death
every
is
day,
live. You know, knowing that death is coming makes you want to live and fight to live. And so I thought it was cool. Then at the end of the movie, he just goes, and the wolf comes after him, and he just goes after the wolf. And then, unfortunately, it cuts, so we don't get to see him absolutely tear the wolf a new one. But I'm pretty sure Liam Neeson came out on top on that fight.
He comes on top of every fight.
The only person that can beat Liam Neeson is Darth Maul.
I was gonna say Chuck Norris, but yeah, Darth Maul for sure.
Darth Maul is the only one that's been effectively able to take Liam Neeson.
That's funny.
So,
I had one last one here. It's called "It Couldn't Be Done" by Edgar A. Guest, and the wording is a little strange, but it says, "Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he wouldn't be one, or that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so until he tried." So somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so until he tried. And so that kind of is just like, a lot of people will tell you in life, "Oh, you can't do that. That can't be done," or whatever. It's like what Arnold Schwarzenegger says when he said, "I love it when people tell me that it's never been done before. You can't do it because it's never been done before. Because then whenever I do it, I know that I'm the first one that's ever done it."
Yeah.
And
don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of cool. It couldn't be done.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the ones I had.
I think that language can be very powerful.
Oh yeah.
And I like what you said, how, when we were younger, it's kind of like, "Oh, poetry's for girls," or whatever else. But language and putting down how you feel, or motivation in words, can be very powerful. And so one of my favorite things to do is to collect quotes that I hear. And I have a whole list, a whole notes thing in my phone of just quotes that I hear. And I just love that, because I think that words can be so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I need motivation or whatever else, I'll just flip to it and say, "Oh yeah, okay, this is it. This is all." Or I'll have like a mantra, a quote that I'll memorize that I'll tell myself. And so I think that these poems and other poems can definitely be something that you use to build your personal creed. You use these things to help motivate you, to help define your life, to help define the decisions you make or the choices that you decide to embark upon. And so, I mean, it's just so much like the one that the little fellow that follows me, and that I love that one. That's just, you know, has so deep rooted in relationships and in child rearing, and the man in the glass, just like, personal acceptance and motivation from within.
Mhm.
And so definitely something I will be applying these and some others to my own personal creed for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. These are like almost like eloquent creed reminders that you should. And I think I challenge everybody. I challenge myself right now and everybody to find a poem that you like and print it out and put it somewhere where you'll see it every day, so that you can remind yourself of the themes that are in that poem. You can remind yourself of the creed attributes that are in that poem. And I guarantee you that if you do that, you'd be better off reminding yourself. When we remind ourselves what we stand for every day, then we will be more likely to stand for those things. We will look for opportunities to stand up for those things we believe in.
Yep. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's use these different tactics, and thank you all for listening. We appreciate your listen, your comments, your feedback. It really helps us to just keep building, keep growing, and keep becoming better people ourselves. So let's go out there, let's get some, and let's build that creed together.
Let's do it.